All right, time now for another Future Stocks video interview, and my guest for the 5 millionth time, Scott Merkin, WhiteSox.com. Scott, we've been planning this interview for, I don't know, it's April 21st. I think we started talking about this while so we talked about before the NCAA tournament started, and then we were going to do one like, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago. So glad we could finally do it. Thanks for your time tonight, man.
Sure, glad to be here. Do I get like a gold watch for the 5 millionth guest appearance on the?
Yes, you get a special prize. I got to be determined.
Or at least like a Future Stocks T-shirt or something like that.
Oh yeah, there you go. I want one too, though. I don't even think I have one. But so let's talk before we get to baseball. We need to talk some college basketball real quick.
Sure.
We're gonna start with Purdue because. So that game, I was over at my girlfriend's house, and I was like, North Texas, whatever. I was planning on going to Indy on Sunday to cover the game, and I wasn't thinking much of it, obviously North Texas, and I thought Purdue was going to be good, and then all of a sudden they lost. And it's just, I was so mad. I didn't pay much attention to the entire tournament until, the Final Four, and then, Michigan made their run. But what did you think of the tournament overall?
Yeah, there were some, I have always said that I thought like after 1 versus 16, and even after Virginia lost, I guess there isn't even that stunning there. There really are no upsets. 2 versus 15 is still pretty close. And then I think everything else is pretty fair game. Like, I don't think Loyola upset U of I. I mean, Loyola, it wasn't like Loyola was an awful team and suddenly had one great game. They played a perfect game against U of I, and U of I was not very good.
Right.
I think in that game, they were very good, obviously, right. For the most part of the season. But I think that was a huge upset, even though it was 1 versus 8, right? I don't think UCLA was an upset over Michigan. Obviously they proved they're pretty good too. I think once you get past that first round, there's not much difference. They go by, I guess, probably strength of schedule and conference and that kind of thing, quality of wins. But I was stunned Gonzaga struggled. I watched that game against USC, and USC had played really good bat. USC absolutely dismantled Kansas. And to see Gonzaga beat USC where they basically set the score, they in that game, they basically were up 22-23. USC got it to 16, and Gonzaga was like, okay, we got to play again. And they got it back up to 23. And to see them, need to go down to the wire against UCLA, and then B, really just get dominated by Baylor. Tells you how good Baylor was, but it was a little surprising to me. And then, of course, personally, still can't believe Michigan missed. Oh, we got a visitor.
We got a guest. We got Mercy.
Yeah. I still can't believe Michigan missed, 4 shots in the last 20 seconds in that game to win it. And I will add UCLA impressed the heck out of me against Gonzaga because I really thought nothing against UCLA, but it scored 51 points, and Johnny Jazang, I think his name is, scored 28 of the 51. So I thought, well, this isn't a great team. This is a team that just got in a good role, and Michigan played an awful game. Not totally taking away from UCLA, but I thought Michigan lost that more than UCLA won. And then UCLA just was unbelievably impressive against Gonzaga. Truly great effort in that game. So they got to where they deserved to be. And Michigan, I don't know what they would have done against Gonzaga, but they did not play a good game in that Elite 8 round.
It was, just UCLA from the first 4 to the Final 4. That's just from crazy that far, and just obviously without Livers, Michigan, not as the full strength, but it was an interesting tournament. It'll be interesting to see what happens next year with the full season, and we'll see.
Well, the transfer portal is crazy now. You hear every day you see. I don't know how much Purdue has been hit by it. Michigan really hasn't been hit this year. They lost some guys like the kid who had a real nice year for Florida, Colin Castleton, I think his name is. Yeah. He was a Michigan guy for 2 years, and he transferred to Florida. I remember the guy a few years ago who beat Indiana in the Big Ten tournament on a last second 3 from the corner. I think his name is Cameron Chapman. He transferred a couple years ago, but it's really prevalent now. I think Adam Miller, is that his name, from U of I? I was shocked to see he was in the portal.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah,
he may go back, so who knows? But looking just, I don't know enough about Purdue to comment, but just looking at Michigan, Mike Smith and Sean D. Brown were 2 transfers from Columbia and Wake Forest, and huge to the team's success this year.
Yeah, Purdue lost Aaron Wheeler, who kind of got replaced. He struggled, but then they lost another guy who didn't really play much. So they got a good recruiting class, and I think they're going to be a top 8 team next year. So
yeah, Michigan's got #1 recruiting class in the country. So I would guess Michigan starts the year probably top 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Well, I know Livers is gone, depending if Wagner's gone, and I've seen him projected as a lottery pick, so I'm guessing he's gone. And then, you got, I'm sure Dickinson will be back. Eli Brooks said he's coming back. Whatever happened to Eastern? Did he play anywhere? Because I know
I don't know. He was supposed to go to Howard. He was supposed to go to all these other places, and then didn't work out. He was supposed to go to Michigan, right, at some point.
Very short time he was in Michigan.
Yeah. And then to Howard, and I don't know whatever happened to him, but I didn't have many interactions with him. Good kid from what I knew, but he just couldn't put it together.
Well, Painter did a great job with that team. I mean, that team was good, but not as good as what their record ended up being. But that was a really good. I mean, they had a bad game in the tournament, but otherwise a really good effort by Matt Painter with that team.
And that was awful. All right, let's get to the White Sox. We could just have our own college basketball podcast.
Yeah, we should.
Actually, next year, let's do it. Actually, so let's get to the White Sox. The number one story of the White Sox has got to be Yermin Mercedes, a guy who in 2018 I saw plenty in Winston-Salem, and a guy who was much larger in 2018 than he is now. And that's a testament to how hard he's worked. I mean, that guy is hit at every level. Finally given the chance, only because Eloy is out, and didn't. I don't think Yermin would have gotten a chance if Eloy was playing, because they would have gone to Vaughn first, and rightfully so, because Vaughn, the pedigree, credentials, and all that other good stuff. But Yermin Mercedes has been one of the biggest stories, not just the White Sox, but Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I would think Yermin Mercedes and Carlos Rodon, right, are probably 1A and 1B for the White Sox this year. But you're exactly right on Mercedes, and you probably can speak to him better than I can because you've seen him a lot more in his minor league days. But, not to be dismissive of Yermin Mercedes, but he was not in the opening day plans until Jimenez got hurt. I mean, just look at the numbers, how they break down. Like you said, Eloy would have been left, and even with Engel injured, it wouldn't have been Mercedes, I don't think, who made it out of that. And really, Tony La Russa, pretty straightforward with us at least during the early stages of his managerial run here. But really, I mean, he kind of labeled Mercedes as kind of like an emergency catcher and a pinch hitter. And then the guy gets a start at DH in Anaheim and goes 5 for 5, gets a second start because you have to. And Tony seems to be a little superstitious too. He's even said that after Abreu broke out of it with 3 hits and 2 home runs as the DH. He said, I wanted to start him again at DH, but Jose hates that, so we'll see how that works. See if it transfers to Friday now since today was canceled. But I mean, he's been great, and I mean, it's been a great approach. It's not like he's looping 10 singles in or something like that. I mean, he's killing the ball. He's getting big hits, and he even pitched this year, for God's sakes. I mean, he's been an exciting player and done a great job for them. And I really like, how he kind of changes his approach. No stride with 2 strikes. I think at one point he had like second or third most 2-strike hits in baseball. And I mean, you don't want to sum this all up in one thing, but think about where they'd be without him if he didn't hit. Right. He was just, an average hitter. I mean, I'm going to take a wild guess and say he doesn't hit 404 this year. But, Alex Rodriguez had an interesting comment on that Sunday night game in Anaheim. And now there's a big jump because we're talking Martinez is a Hall of Famer and David Ortiz, who probably will be a Hall of Famer. But he basically said, they didn't become David Ortiz and Edgar Martinez till later in their career. David Ortiz in Boston and Martinez after a few years kind of getting his feet wet with Seattle. So maybe this is the chance Mercedes needed. We'll see what happens. But, in the counter of that, it's probably taking away some at-bats from Andrew Vaughn because you got to play Mercedes regular. You got to ride the hot hand and let him stay in that lineup.
I once saw Yermin Mercedes hit 2 walk-offs in a single day against the Lakewood Blue Claws back in Winston-Salem. I mean, that guy, all I did was hit. He's such a fun guy too for the clubhouse.
Well, Zach Collins said that during a recent. I think it was. I don't know if it was the Zoom after the no-hitter he caught by Radon. I think it was. I don't think it was another Zoom, but he basically said. I think I asked him something about, are you guys even surprised anymore about when he goes 3 for 4? And he's like, well, nothing ever surprised him because I saw him hit every step of the way. Yeah. So he's in the same boat as you are. That Mercedes is just a good hitter, and I mean, a very charismatic guy. And I love the quotes about. I'm paraphrasing now, but I got to be Yermin. I got to be.
Yeah, exactly.
There's got to be T-shirts besides the Yerminator. There's got to be T-shirts coming, being Yermin or something like that. And now the 9th guy out of the bullpen. Well, him and Mendick competing for the 9th guy out of the bullpen, right, for the White Sox.
Let's get to Michael Kopeck, another guy who I spent a lot of time around in 2018. Who's, just got all the talent in the world, but his off-field issues are well documented, and he is a much different pitcher than he was then, and you can just see it on the mound. And he's been lights out. He got the start the other day, went 3 innings of no-hit ball, and then he went into the 4th, and he has been above and beyond anything they could have asked for, I believe, right now.
Yeah, I think you can't help but admire what he's doing now, but keep like one eye towards 2022, or I suppose maybe even 2023, and think, geez, what's this guy going to be like when he enters in the rotation? And, Tony La Russa made a comment that if he stayed in the bullpen, which is not Kopech's goal at all, he'd be a pretty elite, closer or setup man or something on that level. But yeah, I think it's going to be the same kind of philosophy as like only a right-handed version of what they did with Chris Sale, where he gets this year in the bullpen, maybe part of 22 in the bullpen, but that's too far away to guess. And then he's into the rotation. But yeah, he's just been that, he's been a pitcher more than just a thrower, which he talked about. He made the last start of spring training 2020 before the pandemic, unfortunately, shut everyone down. He pitched on a Tuesday. They got rained out on a Wednesday, had an off day on a Thursday, and then the season was, cut short on that Friday. And he was in great spirits and looked good then, and he's carried it over to now. Every outing, I think there's one outing maybe against Cleveland where he was not off, but just not as sharp as before. He looked great in that. The little I saw him in that ball, I was off that day, but I watched a little of him pitch in that Boston game and was just tremendous. He's been just a great asset to this team overall, just mixing pitches and hitting his spots and, showing control and being able to throw, with, that extra velocity when need be. And it's been I guess I would say been the best guy out of that bullpen so far, right?
Yeah, absolutely has to be. I think the biggest thing for him that has helped is his changes in his delivery. Before he was, in the minors, I just remember seeing him in his body. He was just all over the place. He repeated his delivery, but there was a lot more moving parts. And now it's abbreviated from the stretch, not quite from the stretch, not quite from the windup. He's a lot more compact, and it's just straight to it. And I think that's helping him a lot.
Yeah, I think his mindset is strong too. I remember talking to him. He was at I think it was a Matt Davidson charity outing in California, and he talked about, he was very open, a really honest and straightforward kid. Great quote, great talker about how, he battled that one season when everyone wanted him up in the majors, when it was 18, I guess, when he eventually did get called up. He battled the yips, where he said that, if he started a game and threw a couple pitches out of the zone, he would think in his mind, I'm going to be like that the whole game. And there were games like that where he had, I think there was one game where he had like 3 innings pitched and like 6 walks or something like that. But he's kind of, overcome that, and he's a very focused kid. And you're right. Just the changes he's made overall have made him a better overall pitcher, and he's been truly dominant so far.
Last thing I want to touch on is Carlos Rodon. Obviously from the, what was it, 3rd overall pick, 4th overall pick? What was it?
3rd overall pick behind Brady Aiken and Tyler Kolek. Brady Aiken went to the Astros,
Marlins.
Kolek went to the Marlins. Rodon went to the White Sox, and I believe Schwarber went to the Cubs at 4.
That's what it was. Yeah.
So Rodon trying to join the World Series club from the 5 draft picks. There.
We'll take that. So from that to being hurt, seemingly every single year, to not even knowing. His wife Ashley, that we didn't even know we were going to be this year. They just had the kid, and to being the 5th starter on a team that he had to beat out Reynaldo Lopez, and I don't even know if he's the 5th starter if Michael Kopech's healthy. I don't even know if he gets another shot with the White Sox. To being arguably the 2nd best starter for the White Sox thus far. Maybe, Giolito with Giolito's outing against Boston, maybe the best starter for the White Sox.
He's been the most consistent of anyone across. He's given up 1 earned run in 5, 10, 19 innings, right?
Yeah, so tough to beat that. To obviously throw in the no-hitter, and so what has it been? What has it been like seeing the progression of Carlos Rodon from your point of view?
Well, I think one thing, he gets non-tendered in December, comes back in February via 1-year, $3 million deal. And as one of the other writers, I think it might have been Darryl Van Schouwen from the Sun-Times, said to me, and maybe James Fegan mentioned this too, that, if they gave him $3 million for the year, he was pretty much set, I think, is that he was on the team. And it was more likely that he was going to be the 5th starter and Lopez was going to be the biggest surprise was that Lopez didn't break as a reliever, that he was sent down to kind of continue stretching out at the alternate site as a starter and wasn't part of the opening day roster. But I think even if I had my doubts at the beginning, Rodon was pretty much set as the 5th starter. But, a couple of things, he really worked hard in the offseason. People have talked about that, this is a famous spring training quote, but he's in the best shape of his life. And, he's commanding, 3 pitches and even mixing in the curve every now and then, throwing that high fastball. He did that a couple times yesterday. I remember he had a big at bat against Luplow, who has had probably the best, either him or Jose Ramirez have had the best at bats against Rodon in the 2 games, the no-hitter. And Tuesday night's game, Luplow hit that ball really hard at the end of the game. That's not the exact. I don't think really hard is the exact StatCast terminology, but it was a well struck, but it was a hard ball, as they would say, and it was just right at Moncada to complete the no hitter. So I think he was 3-1 on him, and threw two, about shoulder high fastballs right by him. And that's a difference in Rodon. A difference in Rodon is that, there's some mistakes behind him and the bases are loaded and that kind of thing, and he pitches out of it. Whereas in the past, sometimes he would, sometimes he wouldn't. He's going 110 pitches in 5 innings, but still getting out of there with the lead. But I think here's a basic thing. I've kind of talked about other people. This is his last year of control for the White Sox. Well, I mean, FSA 9-10 was his last year, but they have a 1-year deal with him. And he'll be a free agent after this year. And, he's a family guy. I'm not, he tried hard before. He loves baseball. He's just had a lot of unfortunate injuries, shoulder, Tommy John, some situations last year. And then he was kind of using the bullpen in some tough situations down the stretch. But, he was there, so you got to use him sort of thing. But I think he knows that this is the year. This is the year I got to step up. And, I don't think he's thinking, okay, this is the year I got to step up. I got to get a contract. Then I'm good. I think he's thinking, this is the year. It'll help me and my family down the line. But it's the year to start being Carlos Rodon. And this may be, the first of like 5, 6, 7, 8 years he runs off in a row where he is a frontline starting pitcher.
Merk, we've got we'll have the minor league season coming up here in just a few weeks. So we'll chat again soon. But I mean, like always, we could talk White Sox baseball for a few more hours. But we're gonna cut it right here. Last thing, real quick though, getting snowed out, rained out. I didn't pay attention to whatever happened today.
I think it was it snowed like 4 inches there in Cleveland, and I think it was just field conditions, and I think it was could be like 30 degrees at first pitch or something like that. So yeah, might as well 7-inning doubleheader down the line, right?
But I think obviously they called up Alex McRae, so I mean I think that's really gonna help the pitching staff here moving forward in the near future at least. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you say. No, so yeah, Alex McRae was called up, and I don't know if he was supposed to start today or whatever, but that's obviously really gonna help the pitching staff here for these next couple games in a row here. Yeah, I think they haven't announced it officially yet, but I would guess they stay in rotation, and in rotation would mean Dylan Cease for Dane Dunning on Friday night at guaranteed rate with Texas in town, and then Keuchel, and then Lucas Giolito. And just one final thing, and I'm right about this a little bit. Dunning pitching Friday night against the Sox kind of shows where Rick Hahn and the White Sox are right now, right? I mean that. Rick Hahn did not want to trade Dane Dunning. No one wanted to trade Dane Dunning. But this is the spot they're in. They're not building anymore. They're going for a World Series championship in 2021. So you got to trade a guy like Dunning to get a guy like Lance Lynn who slots in, as your 3, if not higher, in your playoff rotation. So that's the kind of situation. You can still add some young guys along the way, but no longer is that the focus of your deal where you're trading away proven guys to get young guys. You're not trading away young prospects who you've seen develop to get closer to that World Series championship. All right, Mark, appreciate your time today, man. And we'll talk soon, all right? Sounds good. Thanks. All right, that's Scott Merkin, WhiteSox.com here on a Future Sox video interview.